joining me for chapter 30. So, without further ado, let's dive right into the story and see what's happening in chapter 30. Okay. I pulled into the driveway of our house shortly after noon. Joseph nearly fell down the steps as he rushed towards the car. I screeched to a halt, a few inches shy of crashing into him. He tapped on the back window, trying to get Bridget's attention. She looked a bit disoriented when he raised her out of the seat. And the child's mother, does she get a hug? He pressed his lips down on mine. Bienvenue, he said. Welcome back. He ran up the steps with Bridget, leaving me to carry my own bag. The sun shining through the window colored our wood floors, the hue of Haitian dirt. Joseph threw Bridget up in the air, both of them laughing as he caught her. Tell Daddy all about Haiti, he said. Bridget pursed her wet lips as though she wanted to. Are you glad to see Daddy? He propped her up on the sofa. Are you glad to see her, Mommy? I asked, sitting next to him. It's nice to see you, but I want to kill you. His free hand traveled up and down my blouse. Did you miss me? I asked. Sometimes. The bedroom was messy. There were sheets piled on top of one another and pillows thrown randomly about. I held the sheets up to my face and sniffed them for another woman's scent. The mattress smelled like his socks. You see, I need you to put some order in my life, he said. You need a maid, I said. He twirled the duck mobile on the baby's crib, which we kept next to our bed. How was your trip? He asked. My grandmother was preparing her funeral, I said. It's a thing at home. Death is journey. My grandmother thinks she's at the end of hers. You called it home, he said. Haiti. What else would I call it? You have never called it that since we've been together. Home has always been your mother's house. That you could never go back to. I searched through the pile of dishes in the kitchen sink, trying to find a clean glass for a drink of water. In the nursery were some large drums he sometimes used in performance. I was calling the ancestral spirits, asking them to make you come back to me, he said. Your prayers were answered. I went to the living room and crashed on the sofa. It suddenly occurred to me that I was surrounded by my own life, my own four walls, my husband and child. Here I was Sophie, maîtresse de la maison, not a guest or visiting daughter, but the mother and sometimes, more painfully, the wife. We'll deal with this, won't we? Asked Joseph, pushing his tongue in my left ear. I need to know that we can get through all this. In the living room was a fuzzy picture of a very fat me lying naked with a newborn on my chest. Joseph had been too excited to focus when we brought the baby home that first night. All I kept thinking was, thank God it was a cesarean section. The tearing from a natural birth would have totally destroyed me. I reached over and tapped Bridget's nose. I need to know. Did you leave on impulse or had you been planning to go for a long time? He asked. We weren't connecting physically. Did you find an aphrodisiac? I don't need an aphrodisiac. I need a little more understanding. I do understand. You are usually reluctant to start, but after a while you give in. You seem to enjoy it. I called Bridget's pediatrician to make an appointment. I gave Bridget her bath and laid her down while Joseph tapped a few keys on his saxophone. I called my mother, but she did not pick up the phone. Her answering machine did not pick up either. I changed into a sweatsuit to go to bed. Joseph came in a thick terry cloth robe. If our skins touch, he said, I won't be able to resist you. We held each other while trying to make out the plot of an old black and white movie. It was about lovers, a young girl and her painting instructor. At midnight, I called my mother. She sounded anxious when she answered. What are you doing? I asked. Mark is here with me, she said. She told me she loved me and hung up the phone. Joseph rocked me in his arms while we listened to the cooing sounds Bridget made in her sleep. My mother is pregnant, I said. You will finally have a sibling, a kindred spirit. It felt better when I thought of it that way. Bridget will be older than her aunt, he said. Isn't that nice? Our pediatrician Karen was happy to see Bridget. She was a middle aged Indian woman who had seen me through my first weeks with Bridget. Looks like you've lost weight, she said. I held Bridget's feet while she examined her. I nearly dropped to my knees with gratitude when she told me that Bridget was okay. We'll follow the regular schedules for checkups, she said, filling out her chart. Only a mountain can crash a Haitian woman, I said. In that case, your daughter has proven herself a real Haitian woman, Karen said. Tell me how it was, she asked as I dressed Bridget after the physical. You were going to the provinces, weren't you? There are warnings against all kinds of things in places like that. It is somewhat dry where I went. There are not a lot of swamps for malaria or any of those things you warned me about. I was careful about the baby's water. We always boiled it for a long time. She looks good so far, but keep an eye on her and call me if anything unusual happens. If you go to Haiti again anytime soon, leave your angel behind. I'm not sure there's enough Haitian in her to survive another mountain. I called Josie from the hospital to tell him that everything was all right. When Bridget and I came home, there was a large dinner waiting for us: fried chicken, glazed potatoes, and broiled vegetables. Everything came frozen out of a box and still managed to retain some flavor. We decided to start giving Bridget a few more adventurous solids. I pureed some sweet potatoes and boiled some carrots and fed her small spoonfuls. I ate everything on my plate, forcing myself to resist the urge to purge my body. After dinner, I called my mother. When are you going to come and have dinner with Mark and me? I have to bring back your car, I said. How's the baby? Good, I said. How's yours? Don't call it that, she said. I haven't decided if I will follow through. It's fighting me, though. More and more of a fighter every day. Is Mark there? Yes, but he can sleep and I can't. I'm watching television. I don't know. It's really hard. You know what happens now? I look at every man and I see him. Mark? No, no, she whispered. Him. Le voleur. The rapist. I see him everywhere. Have you told Mark? He thinks my body is in shock from getting pregnant. You should tell someone. You cannot report a ghost to the police. Joseph's hands were creeping up my arm and going through the top of my nightgown. I tried to get rid of it, she said, today, but they wanted me to think about it for 24 hours. When I thought of taking it out, it got more horrifying. That's when I began seeing him over and over, that man who raped me. We'll come and visit you this weekend, I said. I want Joseph to meet Mark. I felt his other hand creeping up my thigh, his hair smelling of aftershave as his face approached mine. Mama, I have to go, I said. We'll visit you on the weekend, maybe Saturday. Saturday will be a wonderful day then, she said. He reached over and pulled my body towards his. I closed my eyes and thought of Marisus, the doubling. I was lying there on that bed, and my clothes were being peeled off my body, but really, I was somewhere else. Finally, as an adult, I had a chance to console my mother again. I was lying in bed with my mother. I was holding her and fighting off that man, keeping those images out of her head. I was telling her that it was all right, that it was not a demon in her stomach, that it was a child, like I was once, a child in her body. I was telling her that I would never let anyone put her away in a mental hospital, that I would take care of her. I would visit her every night in my doubling, and from my place as a shadow on the wall, I would look after her and wake her up as soon as the nightmare started, just like I did when I was home. I kept thinking of my mother, who now wanted to be my friend. Finally, I had her approval. I was okay. I was safe. We were both safe. The past was gone. Even though she had forced it on me, of her sudden will, we were now even more than friends. We were twins in spirit. Erasmus. Can we visit my mother this weekend? I asked Joseph. Whatever you want. He was panting. You were very good, he said. I kept my eyes closed to the tears that wouldn't slip out. Then I waited for him to fall asleep, then went to the kitchen. I ate every scrap of dinner leftovers, then went to the bathroom, locked the door, and purged all the food out of my body. Oh God. Alright guys, so that's it for chapter 30. There are many points that you can discuss with your teacher, that you can make some little notes, some pointers. You can make a list of the questions that you'd like to ask. When you go to class, you can, you can add to the discussion. And believe me, this should have more than enough material for a rich discussion in class. Alright, so that's it for chapter 30. So we have, if you're counting along with me, we have 4 more chapters to go. Alright, so see you for chapter 31. Bye everybody.